Greetings. My name is Dr. Waddell Brooks, Sr., your host, and this is Community Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an outstanding program for you this evening. As a matter of fact, we have an outstanding guest, and she is a person that you should know. In the person of Mrs. Yvette Ewing. Good evening, Mrs. Ewing.
Good evening, Dr. Brooks.
As I mentioned to our listening audience, and I will be learning right along with my listening audience all about the things that you have been doing. You're definitely a person that you should know. As a matter of fact, not only a person that we should know, but the whole world would know about you after this program, you know, because of the media, you know, and so YouTube and this type of thing. But you have a special program. You are currently executive director of Fuller Center for Housing Hero Project in Lake County.
Yes.
And our listening audience probably have heard about that. You're also CEO of All Things Possible Enterprise. You graduate of SIU, Southern Illinois University, and that's not Edwardsville, but that's
Great Lakes.
Great Lakes,
yes,
that was,
military,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, right. Of course, you're a Saluki, but I'm a Redbird, but we still get along okay, you know. A BS in Workforce Development and Training. You're a United States Army veteran. Thank you for your service, and always have to do that. And you served in the corporate for profit and not for profit organization. And the list goes on and on, but I'm going to let you talk about them. Tell us a little bit about your early childhood background.
Okay. Well, I'm a Chicago girl, South Side. I was born on the West Side, but I grew up on the South Side.
Oh, okay.
And so I grew up to a single mother, and she didn't quite necessarily know what to do with a child, so I kind of was raised by my grandmother.
Okay.
And so got a chance to grow up in some rough situations. The family I stayed with before I went to my grandmother's was a drug house. You name it, it happened at this place. So that's the life that God birthed me into. And my grandmother kind of rescued me when she could. And I grew up in the city, and I just loved school. Even though all heck was breaking loose in my life, I had great teachers. And so grew up. Then I moved around quite a bit. So I lived not only in Chicago, I lived in California, Arkansas. So I got a chance to see a lot. My mother passed on, and then after that I went to college for a little while. Didn't have any money, couldn't stay at that time.
Okay.
And then I wound up going to the military at the age of 21. And that was the change agent. I got a chance to go find out what I was made of, and never knew how to do a push-up or a sit-up. But by the time I finished basic, I could run 2 miles under 2 minutes. And definitely was a game changer for me. My goal was to go for 20 years, but my ex-husband didn't want me to stay in, so I came out after 3. But both my brothers were in the military, so I got a chance to support them and started a family, and basically that's how it all began.
You know, West Side is a special place too, because George Bridges, Judge Bridges, he's from the West Side of Chicago too, you know. So he's telling me about the challenging experiences that he had. In other words, he had one set of books for school, and another set of books at home, because you couldn't get caught taking books home.
Nope, you could not. It was rough.
Unusual situation. Well, that's unusual. You mentioned. Tell us about your the Fuller Center for Housing Hero Project in Lake County.
So the Fuller Center for Housing Hero Project, Lake County, is actually Millard Fuller was the founder of Habitat for Humanity. Everybody knows Habitat.
Okay.
2005, the organization split apart. He was the founder, but he went ahead and launched his own non-for-profit. That year was significant because Katrina hit that year. So Millard Fuller founded some of the first evacuation cities for when Katrina hit, to help Katrina victims. Since then, we now have 73 affiliates nationwide.
Wow.
And I'm the first Illinois affiliate that was activated. Now we have Peoria, Chicago just came on, and Rockford's coming on. But I'm the largest affiliate of them all. And so we basically do 3 programs. We do affordable housing, like Habitat. So we rehab houses for really good families who want to come off of renting and own their own home. We help them. We also do what we call wellness, mental, physical, and spiritual wellness. And what we mean by that, through our wellness physical, we have an urban ag program. We grow food. So we have a community gardens, we have a farm, and we are teaching young people. We partner with youth builds. Take those kids out there, and people from the community, local schools, Girl Scouts, they come out and learn how to grow food in our organically grown food. We've now also has a teaching program. We do a free farmers market. This is our 7th year doing it. We've distributed over 500,000 pounds of food to the community. Matter of fact, this Friday we'll be cooking over at Barwell and Waukegan Housing Authority, and we will be distributing fresh organic collard greens and green tomatoes, and we've got onions and all of this, and we basically do a little cooking demonstration as we give food to the community. And then our 3rd program is working families. We actually help people find work. So we run a call center for a national retail construction company and called Lakeview Construction, and they're our partner. So my landlord owns the building and owns that company. I run his call center for his $75 million company in exchange for real estate. So basically it's he wants to put veterans to work. I'm a vet, and I wanted to help disabled vets get back on their feet and ex-offenders. Then we've placed right now, in the last 4 years, we've been open, 5 years now, we've placed over 130 people on jobs through our little calls, through our little network. And so, and then the part of the other mental part, I'm a certified life coach also. So the heart of our programs is not the houses, not the gardens, not the jobs. I help people figure out what they want to do, find their God calling and activate it. So we also have a thrift store, we have a teaching kitchen, and we have a new wood shop where we're actually building our own furniture. And we also, again, grow our food. So we've got a lot of little on-ramps, and now we're going to be bringing the arts, jazz, and all of that stuff there as well. We have a craft room where, so whatever your gift is, we help you activate that thing, but not just for you, to serve somebody else. So yeah.
Okay, very good. I noticed there are several churches have gotten involved in gardening too.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
God kind of was funny. Here's the funny part, Dr. Brooks. I kill cacti. In my office, there's a dead cactus.
Okay.
But God has a sense of humor and put me in charge of this big garden movement. But God, this is how it kind of went down. We had started a free farmers market 7 years ago at the Waukegan Housing Authority with Trinity AME Church.
Okay.
And so we built, that 2nd year we did the free farmers market, we said, let's teach people how to grow food instead of just giving them a fish. We can give them food all day long, but that won't change their life. How about we teach them how to grow their own? So we built our first one at the senior center. So I had my friend who is a great master gardener she lived in Barrington, and I had one of our residents from the housing authority. We were building our first garden together, and when we showed up, the little Miss Jones, I'll call her, she had a jar waiting for the worms for us to dig up after we dug up the garden. I said, well, Miss Jones, we're not going to dig up the yard. We're just going to put a raised bed right on top. Well, Miss Jones looked at her friend and looked at us and said, they don't know what they're doing. Now, the funny part of the story is we began to teach her about raised bed gardening. We talked about garden mix, vermiculite, all of this. We didn't have enough help, so she called up her grandson. And about 5 or 6 of his friends came. So we were out there right on the spot teaching these young men. One young man had an ankle bracelet on. We're teaching them how to build the beds on the spot. They were learning how to grow food on the spot. And Miss Jones got off the bench, got down there, and she started saying, I don't know about this vermiculite stuff, but baby, I know collard greens don't go well next to that. So they were teaching each other. And that's when God said, food will bring the community together. And then God inspired us. I dwell in a garden. We're a faith-based organization, so God told me to build gardens in the community to bring, so to date, we have over 30 faith partners. We work with the Jewish community, we work with the Muslim community, we work with Lutherans and Baptists and Mennonites and everybody coming together who agree on 3 things. People need a decent place to live, people need good food to eat, and people need a job. I even got Republicans and Democrats working together. Novel idea. And that's been successful. So we have over 300 volunteers a year. Who get involved in what we do. And that's only God could have pulled that off. But our biggest level is inside our garden.
This is fantastic. And why Hero?
So personally, there was a song Kirk Franklin made, a CD years ago, And I used to use that CD when I used to run after school programs and minister to young people going through stuff. So hero was always in my DNA.
Okay.
And then I got a chance, the year I lost my job from the school district, we were laid off, the movie Waiting for Superman came out, which talks about the broken education system and how we need Jeffrey Canada, who's this big guru, who's my guru. He was like, when he found that Superman wasn't real, he was heartbroken. And so God then showed me, he said, you're going to build hero centers, a place where the community will dwell, that every person who walks in is a hero, whether they just got out of jail, they're a hero because they chose to change. If they're a hero, if they chose to give, they're a hero because they chose to give. So it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, we're all heroes together. And the coolest thing that's happened from our program, Dr. Brooks, is that when I've got Orrin Piquel, who builds $1 million homes, working with Duran Wright, who is one of our contractors, an ex-offender who turned his life around, and they're both working on our house together, and Duran's mentoring this millionaire builder because he's never built a house this cheap. They're housing heroes. It's the same for the gardens. They're wellness heroes. It doesn't matter what your zip code is and how much money you got. God has allowed a way for us to come together and agree upon these things, how we're the same. And we all got to eat. We all got to work. And we all need a place to live. So that's the magic behind it.
This was a great learning experience for me, and it will be for our viewers too. Excuse me. I had a forum on racism and diversity and so forth, but this is another unique way you're using, you know, as a challenge for people to get along with one another.
What I've kind of, through prayer, the reality is I want to create a world I want to live in. I don't care what's happening in Washington. God just reminded me, you can create the heaven you want in your house, on your block, in your city. So I can sit up there and look at all the politics and do all the fighting, or I can choose to do something about it. So while all the fighting is going on, we're cooking together. We're growing food together. We're sewing together. We're doing art together. We're listening to music together. Our children in different races are coming together and enjoying each other without all that. So I get to create the America, we get to create the America we want to live in, one block at a time. That's the goal. The houses that we're building, we've now built 5 of them, and we have 3 more we're purchasing this year. And the goal is to do 300 countywide. The goal is every homeowner can be the agent for that block, to love on their neighbor and love them as yourself. So it's not about race, it's not about gender. Our job, simply, we believe, is that God's called us to love him and love his people, period. It doesn't matter what color, background, sexual orientation. My job is to love him and his people. And that's what the Hero Project is an opportunity for us to love each other as neighbors.
This is fantastic. And you're working with, actually, it's profit and not-for-profit. What's the difference now?
The distinction, so what we do, the cool part about, we get to bring everybody together. So the first home we got was we partnered with the city of Waukegan. They helped us get a home, very low income, low rate. Okay. And then we also just recently got one for $1 from them. So we also partnered with the government. We partnered with business community. The first homeowner worked in my call center. So the business community helped hire her. And so then we also partnered with the nonprofit. So we partnered with Waukegan, different organizations like the Youth Build. So we work with all the non-for-profit community. We use their kids to build our houses. We also work with the faith community, obviously. Our programs, we are the bank for these houses. Our churches raise the money. We go find the families and we build houses together. And so we get to bring business, government, and the general public all together to work together. So we get to unite cities. That's exciting. So we're hubbed in Waukegan, but we are a Lake County nonprofit. So we're also doing work in Round Lake. We've been invited to do some work into Zion, and we're definitely highly embedded. 4 of our homes are in North Chicago, and we just bought 2 more there. So the goal is every city will have a Hero Center.
Were you invited to some of these $1 houses? Or what?
We got our first one. We just they didn't exist for a long time, but then God opened up a door. We just acquired a home in Waukegan, and the goal right now. Matter of fact, we have missionaries coming in this weekend to help us paint that house and get it ready for a family. So we got people coming from outside our community. Would love to get some local missionaries who would come and volunteer, youth groups who can come and get involved.
Right. And I mentioned about the churches too, but this is a great ministry for the churches, right?
We kind of play the role of outreach for some churches. So if you're a small church and you say, we really want to do something significant, because here's the sad part. I was hired as a consultant before we started to do this. And I got a chance to, I was hired as a consultant to bridge urban and suburban churches to work together. The challenge was, the saddest part of the story was when I interviewed pastors, I said, what's your passion, pastor? Some said, I want to build job training programs. He said, but my church, we kind of do a soup kitchen. They don't really want that kind of program here. And then I meet another pastor, I want to develop businesses, but we don't quite do that. We kind of do, we do backpacks, we do school drives, we don't really do that. So as if I interviewed 10 pastors, 92% of them, 98% of them were like, we're not doing the thing that God called them to do. Okay. So I get to play a role. I'm doing housing, I'm doing gardening, I have the arts, I have music, I have the thrift store, so repurposing stuff and recycling, and I've got job training. So I've got mentorship opportunities with youth. I have senior citizens working in our, so I've got seniors working for me, veterans working for us. So now I get to bring the churches out of the church into the community, and now they get to partner with other churches. Novel idea, the body of Christ, all working for the Church of Jesus Christ, not based on a denomination or anything, or building, all God's people working together. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And that's the uniqueness of what we get to do with the churches. And so we're definitely don't have outreach directors. Sewing, and that's how we get support from some of our local churches. They give us financial support to build the houses, to help us administratively, and they get to bring their teams out for our service days and all of that. So we provide those services for a lot of the churches.
You mentioned that you are a veteran. Have you worked with the Great Lakes Naval Base, and because I understand they have people available from time to time to go out in the community to assist.
So we did have a liaison who helped us to connect to some of the sailors who came out when we first started our farm. Yeah. And so we definitely were able to do that. The sad part about it, we're still a new non-for-profit. We're only 4.5 years old, almost 5 years old. I'm the only full staff person. So I manage all these 300 volunteers. I build the houses, I haul the furniture, and I do all of it. So we're right now praying for resources that we can hire a volunteer coordinator to do a lot more of it, because we have a lot of people calling us. Corporations are calling to get involved. But it takes a little bit to navigate all of that, and we're praying that God's going to bring us that soon.
Right. With all the work that you're doing, you still spend time in grant writing too.
I've been doing that for about 30 years. And so I don't get a chance to do as much as I'd like to, but I do help other non-for-profits. A lot of people come to me with visions. So part of me being a life coach, I hear their dreams of what they want to build. And my gifting is what I call the Joseph gift. I find resources. And so when you come to our facility and you see I have a 10,000 square foot warehouse that we don't pay anything for, you can see God's hand in this blessing for resources. So I often tell people, you don't need money to start what God has called you to do. Right. You just start it. If you started in your kitchen, if God's called you to cook, start cooking in your kitchen. If he's telling you to build something, build it in your backyard or in your living room or in your mama's basement. Just start what he told you to do, and he'll bring the resources for it. So that's part of what I get to teach people when they walk through our facility and they see the beautiful furniture that we have, that we get from all over Lake County, Lake Forest, beautiful leather couches, and like, how much money do you have? I don't have any, but God has it all. And so you get to now see what can happen. So part of it is to do those classes, and I work with churches, helping them figure out, how do I activate my people's God gifts? And so I'm actually doing consulting, doing that, and I do some grant writing on the side too.
Well, you're a true believer in the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Fantastic. And you also, in addition to being a grant writer, you're a trainer too, right?
Yes. Life coach training. I do church development consulting. My husband does IT, so we service a lot of small businesses. So so that training is my background from military to corporate. I love motivating youth. I speak at conferences, and I love motivating women to purpose, and that's one of my heartbeats. But I do it with everybody, and we have ex-offenders who work in our program, disabled vets who work in our program, and I help them figure out what they want to do, and I help them activate them. So I don't let them go back. Once you tell me your dream, it's on. So that's kind of what I do with the whole team of people we work with.
Well, it seemed like just a husband and wife team. Now, you both have the same interests, your goals, your vision, and so forth. Your husband also, does he teach with Reverend Gass, Arthur Gass?
So my husband does IT. So he does technology, servers. So he helped build their computer center at Reverend Gass's place.
Yeah.
We also manage the Waukegan Housing Authority. We also work with Waukegan Township. So they're one of our clients. And so we do all their technology, and he trains a lot of the people how to work on technology. And then ultimately our goal is to do a technology arm of our non-for-profit as well. My husband's the board president and kind of my glue. He runs the back office. He volunteers. He does about 30 hours a week in volunteering. So he's hoping I raise enough money that he could retire from me. So yes.
Right. Yeah, this is great that youth and seniors can work together. And this solves another major problem that we have in the community.
Yes.
With youth going in one direction.
Together.
Yeah, right.
And that's the coolest part about it. So like right now I have a wood shop. And so I have a young man who's from the community, and he had a heart. He does carpet, builds furniture. He says, I'll come out and help. So I have youth from the Workforce Development Program. He's training how to build their own furniture. I have senior citizens who are back there teaching them how to use the tools and on the houses that we build. So I've now got multi-generations all gleaning and learning from each other. That is and the cooking, that's one of the big ones. That we're about to launch that more in the fall. We actually have a teaching kitchen where we're going to be doing healthy soul food and Mexican food, and so stay tuned for our show for that. And the goal is to bring chefs from all over. We have several restaurants who said we'll come in and teach the young people how to cook. And so we're trying to get people back to the dinner table. So we call that the hero table, because that's where your heroes get born. When your family sits around the table and you get to hear their dreams.
Right. So what your extended goal or one of your challenges is getting the community to work, and you just described some challenges there for you to get communities to work together.
That's my prayer, that we can break down our denominational walls and do the God work. And so I would like to think we do God's work. And that's why, so I just hired one of my new staff. He's Muslim. He sees the God work in it. He's like, you're agreeing on some things that we all agree on. It's different that you may be Christian, but we agree that people need this good food to eat. And I love the fact that just us owning our own block, owning our own community, and stop waiting for government. Because here, even as a grant writer, Dr. Brooks, and everybody's seeing it, state funding is getting cut. What I'm trying to teach the community, what do we have in our hand that we could still do powerful work with? It's not dependent on outside money. Let's use the assets. What we call, our process is called ABCD, Asset-Based Community Development. We basically, I took a man who had an empty warehouse, and he had a business problem. He couldn't keep people in his call center in Wisconsin. He says people don't take these jobs, the turnover's too high. I said, I want to put some veterans to work and some ex-offenders to work who wouldn't have a chance to work somewhere. He said, well, let's partner. If I build a call center in Waukegan, could you run it? Never ran a call center before. I'm like, sure. Scarily, I said it. But God, in 2 weeks, he built me one. That was 5.5 years ago. And we have been putting people to work. And we took him from 75 million to 80 million a year because we run the front line of his company. So, but we used his assets. Empty warehouse, it was just sitting there. I needed a place to service the community, so it's our community center. I helped him solve the business problem, get him some good people to hire. I find good people for him. He wanted to help veterans and didn't know how. So now he looks good because he's now giving back, got a good tax write-off for helping the community. So it's a win-win. And so that's what I have kind of learned how to do. When you grow up poor, Dr. Brooks, you know, you make do. You make ketchup sandwiches or whatever. So I grew up poor. So, but I couldn't afford Barbie dolls. So I got the little dollar store doll, and I made my own clothes for her. And so I've always had the gift of, I'm gonna make it happen no matter what. And now I get to teach the next generation how to do that and not depend on their parents and not depend on the government or depend on a job. I get to awaken the entrepreneurship, and I help them find their God calling. And once that's activated, there's no stopping them. And so that's the heart of what we love doing.
This is thinking that that you turning around, because there are people growing up, or maybe even I could say, and where you grew up too, looking for the government to provide
Yes, I grew up
everything.
that way. I started that way, but I wasn't going to finish that way. I've always been curious and loved education, but couldn't afford to go to college when I first came out. I went
Okay.
for one semester and I couldn't afford to go back. So I had to create my own university. I would meet somebody like you and I sit at your feet, tell me about you. As a matter of fact, I did that with Dr. Brooks, Daisy Brooks, when I
Okay.
heard of when I first moved here as a military.
Oh.
I was stationed at Fort Sheridan and I came to to your facility, the Daisy Brooks Center.
Okay.
And I learned what they were doing, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like, and so I learned from you all because I didn't have access, but I was hungry to learn how do you do community development. At that time, Oprah was involved and all of this.
Yeah,
so I'm
she
watching.
visited the center.
She visited the center, and
Yeah.
but that was my heartbeat. I just never knew how to do it, and you guys were pioneers when I first moved out here.
You
And
speak about being pioneers, but Daisy was raised in a poor community in Mississippi, and so she knew exactly what you're talking about, and she's been helping others do the same thing. And as a matter of fact, she wrote a book. It's called From the Outhouse to the White House. She was raised
Yes.
at the White Outhouse, and then she was invited to the White House by the President of the United States. Now, she's been through that so she can help others go through the same thing.
In my office, I have a picture now of me with Barack Obama, 2
Ah.
weeks before he announced his presidency.
Oh.
I was an after-school ambassador, so I got a chance to go for the Senate to advocate for kids in poor communities, to bring programs.
Fantastic.
And so I have that picture to remind me. I wasn't at the outhouse, but I was in the crack house on the west side of Chicago where I grew up,
Okay.
the drug house, to the White House.
Okay.
So I totally relate to that, yes.
Oh man, this is fantastic. Now, you were telling us about your personal mission in doing the work that you're doing.
Yes. My personal mission, my God called for this. This is I've been through a lot. I am a survivor of physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse. I've been through being in similar to foster homes, and just had to move a lot. And so I was that kid who had been through all kinds of hell. By all rights, I should be either in jail,
Okay.
20 babies, and something wrong. And so at the age of 33, I decided I was going to end my life because it was just too hard. I'd been through a divorce and I had 2 kids. My oldest son was threatening suicide, and I'm like, I failed. And so I'm going to just let these kids go, and I'm going to go just die. And I put my kids on a school bus that day, and I went home, ran the bathwater, and took the pills to die.
No.
And then God came in the room and said, don't do this. Now, I grew up in the church all my life, grew up in a Baptist church, knew church, was baptized, but it wasn't in me. And so I'm up here about to die. So I like to say, oh, hallelujah, God, I'm glad you're here. No, I cussed God out. I had a moment with him. I literally cussed him out. Who the heck are you to show up now? Why did you let me go through all of this? Why did I have to suffer so much? Why did all these people hurt me? And I went on and I'm crying and I'm screaming, and he says, it was your training ground. He said, in the future, I'm going to need somebody who's been through to pull somebody else out of this. They got to know they can make it. You got a story. Your testimony will save children. And he didn't lie. I didn't finish the process that Sunday. I went to church. I had been sending my children to church, but I didn't want anything to do with it. And it was like the pastor knew all my business. And that's why I go to Waukegan Community Church, and that my pastor was speaking today. It was like somebody here wanted to die, and God has a plan for you. And I just sat there and I cried my eyes out. I never looked back. The praise report is I've ministered to over 30,000 youth. I've been at national conferences teaching teachers how to teach. Who am I? I didn't even have a degree, but God opened doors once I chose his path. And so my path and my purpose here is to help people find the reason they were created to do. Because if you don't figure it out, you're going to abuse. If you don't know that a microphone is meant to talk into, you might stick it in your eye or chew on it. But if you know what it was created for, you'll use it and it will be magnified. My job is to teach the lowest of the low, the highest of the high, because I minister to the millionaire families that I pick up furniture from. I'm in there praying with their families because they got housewives who sitting there don't know what to do with their life. So it's not about just the lowest of the low. God called me to help all people connect to the God purpose so they can activate it and get the peace that they want. And when they get that peace, the drugs go away. the abuse goes away. Yes.
Then you can remember that God used his own son to go through things, and his son even say, he was wanting to know why.
Yes.
When he's been crucified, he asked, "Why have thou forsaken me?" He went through the things for us. So you mentioned about the things that you went through with, but God was using you.
He was using me. The bullets that were sent to kill me by Satan, I use them now on him.
Okay.
So when the bullets of sexual abuse. So I tell my testimony, and I've helped many of young women deal with it and reconcile what that really is and give them their power back. So so those bullets that were meant to destroy me, because Satan tried to kill me in my mother's womb. My mother tried to kill me 3 times before I was ever born.
Wow.
So there was a calling on my life before I ever knew it, and that's God. And every person has that same calling, but they don't know, and our churches are not failing to helping to activate it. They're not going deep enough. The jobs you have at the church are the usher, work with the kids, maybe you get to do media. But if you're a teacher, or if you are, if you cook, those women who run them kitchens is real protective. So everybody don't get to go in that kitchen and cook. But if the church would ever just activate all the gifts, people would never leave churches and hop like they do, because they're hungry to do something. They want to pour it out. The children only get to minister Easter and Christmas. When they got music inside of them and drama and theater. So that's why it gets acted out in the wrong place, because our churches are not opening up to let the gifts be poured out. So they can glorify God, and they could be used there, and then they can serve the world. So what I'm doing now is teaching churches how to get those programs in there. And I'm doing it in our Hero Center, but success for us is that every church will have a Hero Center inside of it. You got life coaches and job coaches and marriage coaches, housing coaches, helping people get housing. The God I serve fulfills every need. We ain't got to depend on the government. And we got everything we need in our churches, but we just got to activate and look at the assets we have to activate them for his glory.
We need you more and more, because you're still growing.
I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I don't know what I'm going to do when I'm grow up.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of girls are saying, "I want to be like you, when I grow up, And this is what you want, too. Let your light shine,
I'm pouring back out. I learned some things. I've written over $10 million in grants. For other organizations. I built national model programs for Girl Scouts, for Waukegan School District. I got a chance to represent in Washington on what to do with kids. So I have that knowledge, and I meet a lot of people say, "I want to work with the kids." I'm like, just come on. I've got the grants written already. I'll pour into you. That's not my season. I do a different level with them, but I'm not supposed to be front line. This is the season for us, this generation, to pour back. So that's what I'm trying to get all of us who are older. That's what I love about our programs of multi-generations. We've got knowledge that they need, but often we keep a hold to it. Our non-for-profits don't share information, or church. We can't live that way. We won't survive. So part of it is to bring conversations together, bring those who build houses together and teach the younger ones. God told me to bring back the old school trades, teach them how to build houses. And this is Isaiah, in the book of Isaiah. Teach them how to grow their own food. Because end times is coming. It's about to get crazy. We might need to have to grow our own food to survive if something happens to the mass food supply. I'm glad I've learned how to grow food now. And I've learned how to do hydroponics, and I'm growing food indoors. And I'm learning those things for survival. My job now is to teach the generations that come beneath me how to do it.
It's been like the Noah was preaching, and then finally when the door closed, everybody wished they had listened to him.
Wish they had listened. So yes, part of it is to educate our communities that we are our own solution. I want to teach emergency rescue. You saw what happened with the flooding. We shouldn't have to bring resources from outside our community. These young men who are coming out of jail, these veterans who are coming home who don't know their identity, is still stuck in a war. We have to teach them they still have purpose. And those are the greatest people to do restoration and rebuild the houses and rescue people when floods come. And so part of our goal is to be able to take the people who have been thrown away in society, give them assets, build them up so they can be heroes too, and not looked down upon.
We always hope that pastors ministers want to seek to be a pastor, but I wonder if they realize what pastorship is all about. It's not about building a new building. We have so many new buildings that just
sit empty.
Sit empty. Really, literally empty.
All day.
Yeah, yeah.
And we need those buildings.
Oh, my goodness.
So we're looking for churches who say, build it here. So we can literally build after school programs. That's the opportunity. We need those buildings to open up. And we've got some great, I'll say this, going through this process, running a non-for-profit, I put my hats off to pastors who go through this process. Because I raise my own support. And so I literally, whether one volunteer shows up, so I totally depend on the people of God to say they're going to give $10 or they're going to give $1. So that's, this year I got 3 whole paychecks, but praise God, we're doing well as an organization, but I deliberately didn't take a salary for the first 3 years because everything I do now I've never done before. I've never grown food. I've never run a call center. I've never run a thrift store. I've never run a teaching I did a cooking program in my after school. I've never built houses. So I'm a general contractor now. I've got new skills that I've never had before because this is a new season. And so that's a message I have for a lot of my contemporaries. Stop looking at your past. Everybody say, you're a grant writer. Shouldn't you be writing a bunch of grants for yourself? God hasn't even allowed that yet because he's now teaching me new skills. So I'm so dependent upon him. I can't even take credit for the stuff that's happening. This is all God because I don't have the skills to pull it off. And I don't get to pull it off in case I get a whole community around me. I can't build a house in case I get the Duran Wrights to show up and say he's going to give, or I've got, this other young man who's now volunteering with us until some more funding comes in, but he's helping us to rehab a house, Raymond Rowe Construction. He's an amazing man, gifted. He's like, I believe in what you all are doing. And until those people show up, I don't get to do the work. Or Michael Brankin, who's one of our homeowners, who's my farm manager. He's out there managing my farm and, not making a lot. And he's out there volunteering at 6 o'clock in the morning to grow food for the community. The hero network doesn't work until I got all the heroes in. So success for me is not about Yvette. It's about the whole body of Christ, the whole body of God's people coming together to save our community.
I notice I can see a word that's faith.
Faith.
Is what you have, you know. And this is, you mentioned that, I keep mentioning my wife, Daisy. She had faith too about 40 years ago, that she'd be doing the things that she's doing. But she's also a general contractor, like you mentioned that she looked at the contractor that built our home and she said, I can do that. But what happened is that she got with the subcontractors and they said, well, we'll help her out, and when they ensured that the electrician get in the right place and the carpenter get in the right place and plumber and so forth.
Well, I haven't formally done it, but I'll put it this way. When you're building a house off volunteers, and each house is 100 volunteers.
Okay.
And the trades. We hire up to 12 trades for every house. So my husband's probably more gifted in this now, but I do know the lingo now. I can go up in a house and pretty much decide if it's a good investment. So I'm learning real estate. That I've never been able to do it. I bought a couple houses, for myself, but to go out here and buy mass properties and go through and see mold remediation and oversee that, and we are learning some skills that we didn't have before, and so we're thanking God for that. But we depend on the experts in the community to help walk us through, and we've got some really good friends who are helping us.
It seemed like you're not one that just sit behind a desk. You're a hands-on person that get out.
I got a lot of paperwork, but I don't get to touch it often. And my husband and I wake up in the morning at 6 o'clock answering the emails to about 7:30. And then we get into the office and we got volunteers that we manage, we got staff that we manage, and so I run with the people all day long. I go pick up furniture, I lift couches, I do all of that. So I am the front line. I don't ask my teams to do anything that I don't do. I'm cleaning the toilet, I'm mopping the floors, and I just believe in being a servant leader. And my goal is because I'm teaching my youth, my summer interns, how to detail a kitchen. I'm teaching them how to grow food and how to chop collard greens and how to chop. So in our kitchen, and we're catering food when our missionaries come in. And so I do all of it. God allowed me to touch it all until God brings me the help I need. I thought I would have a chef who'd run my kitchen, and I started off with one, and then things changed, and God said, no, you need to get in there and cook. So everything about it, I've learned to grow the food. I've learned to hammer too. I know a little bit about hanging some exciting, and so I know enough now to be able to know the right thing when I see it. So that's a blessing, and I'm excited. I love meeting all the people. Amazing.
So, Ms. Ewing, this is not a 9-to-5 job that you have, right?
No, no, we do it 6 days a week. So I go to church. I call it 6 days a week. I serve
Okay.
God. So like last Sunday, I didn't go to my home church, but I do serve God 7 days a week. I do,
Right.
and I don't turn this off. When I'm at home, I'm just researching projects of how to do more of it and how to do it better. And it's a distinction. It's my vocation, and it's my ministry.
Okay.
And so,
okay.
and I know the difference. And so what I do is I coach a lot of people who've been called to do things. I help them figure out the clarity of that. Because the worst thing you can do is try to get paid for something God told you is your ministry. And if a lot of people get it confused, they say, can you go get me some grants? I want to do that. I want to serve the kids. I said, is God telling you that you should get paid for that? Well, I just figured I need money before I start. Well, that's the wrong answer. First step is to show up and start. And so I get to help people figure that out.
Right, right. What we spoke about family, but what about your children?
I have 4 arrows. I got 4 of them. That oldest son of mine, who I talked about earlier in my story, he was actually contemplating suicide at the age of 10 because I was going through a divorce and it was hard.
Yeah.
But that's my son who graduated from Yale with his MBA, and he's doing very well, living in New York.
Okay.
I have another arrow. I have a beautiful daughter who is a little mini me with all the creative gift of me. So she helps us with the ministry and helps me do research for me. And so she's got the gift just to love on people and definitely gifted with little children. And then my other arrow, my bonus arrow, my son Brandon Ewing, who's on the Waukegan School Board. And so he's an elected official giving back to the community. He grew up in our programs, working for my after school programs and helping people in the community. His mom does the same in Chicago. He's my stepson. His mom does it, helps develop the Woodlawn Woodlawn, what they're doing over on the west side.
Okay.
And so that's his background. So he had it in his DNA, and a bonus mom, me. And then my last baby is King David. He's now 16. And he works with us with the farm and helps with the programs when we can. And now he just got his first job this year, working in the same place as Brother Brandon used to work at People's Choice, who is one of our partners and gives back to the community. So those are my 4 arrows, and I got my little mini arrows. So Brandon blessed me with 3 grandsons. My Bible boys, I've got Isaiah, Nehemiah, and Josiah, King Josiah. I got 2 prophets and a king. So yes, and I got a beautiful daughter-in-law. So we are very blessed. She's training in early childhood, and she's in school now, and so I can't complain. God doesn't have to give me another thing. I am so blessed. And then I got my king, Ronell Ewing, who is my heart, my best friend, my business partner, my baby daddy, all that. He's awesome. And he's not afraid of who I am. He's just the wind to just say, go for it, babe. But he's the kind of one that keeps me anchored too.
Oh, yes.
He's like, okay, you're dreaming too big. Get on back down here, girl. And it works out for us. So we've been coming up 18 years of marriage.
Fantastic. Congratulations. Hope you many more.
I'm believing that. We only had 3 dates, and we were dating for 6 weeks.
Is that right?
So yes, now if anybody out there, if your child talking about doing it, I wouldn't tell them to do that. But yeah, it worked out for me. So yes.
Right. Yeah. Now, when we walked into the school district board meeting, and saw the young, we thought he was an intern. They said, no, he's a regular board member. And it's the youngest member on the board, I
Yes,
suppose,
he is.
right?
He's 25 years young.
And to win a district election, evidently, it was more than just his mom. That he did a lot of work himself, right?
He did most of the work himself. But he's been, since he was a little kid, matter of fact, the funny part, when he was 10, I actually was going to Washington, and I didn't know who Barack Obama really was as a senator.
Okay.
When my son found out I was going, Brandon's like, you better get his autograph when you're there. I'm like, who is this Barack? He says, we had bought him his book for Christmas. So sure enough, I go there, and Barack comes out. And I said, I can't leave until I get your picture and get your autograph, because my son won't let me, he will never forgive me. And he said, do you have a camera? And that's when I threw it across the room. I had a little disposable camera.
Okay.
I got a picture with Barack Obama because of Brandon. Brandon knew who he was as a kid. He was following him. He's always been our family pundit. He was always watching the news, History Channel, He's always been that way, even as a little boy. And so he's just, why he's going to be the politician in the family. We all say, hold that down. We don't want to be politicians. But he has a heart for community like no other young man I've ever seen. And we're very proud.
This is fantastic. It has to be, God has chosen you, there's no doubt about it. And you weren't brought in this world to not let your light shine, to keep your light under the pot. And you are really letting your light shine.
Oh,
and I'm happy that my wife has had a part in it, though.
Yes.
Too, you know, you
yes.
have,
yes.
And you still talking with her, right?
Yes,
still talking
absolutely.
with her.
Yes, definitely. Especially as when we were really starting with a non-for-profit, I had a chance to speak with her when we were first starting this in 2010 at a dinner party with Tara at Tara's home, and so I got a chance to pick her brain about it. So she's definitely been integral.
Yeah. Now, you're CEO for All Things Possible Enterprise.
Yes.
I know we've probably covered that, but I want you to go into detail about it.
So basically, All Things Possible, which is, of course, through Christ who strengthens me, is the other part of that. But our goal is to literally, that's our consulting business, where we do technology support, and also where I do training and life coaching and helping churches and non-for-profits and for-profit companies help to develop their businesses, find resources for their businesses.
Now, is there a cost for this, or who funds this?
Yeah, so that is a for-profit company. Yeah, so we are hired to help develop, to help consult businesses to grow their business or find resources for them through grant writing or just collaboration. So I help create strategic collaborations between like-minded businesses so they can grow together. Yeah.
Now, there has to be dedication too, right? It's not an easy process, right?
Not an easy process, and collaboration is different. A lot of people collaborate based on money and grant money, and when that's gone, it's over. That's not collaboration. Collaboration is when people come together, ain't no money, and say, we're just going to use what we got in our pocket. I got $1 and you got $2. Let's bring it together. That's what I'm trying to teach people. It's a difference, because that means your heart is in it, and if it's really true, what has God called you to do? What has God called me to do? And then pray together. Is God want us to do it together? And if that's the answer, that's where the increase comes. So we get to teach people. People look at it at a business sense. Oh, they got something I need. But if they're not equally yoked with you, that may not work out. You really need to dig deeper than just what you see on the surface. You need to look at how much invested, how much have they invested? Have they started this yet? Are they working with kids yet? Are they working with seniors yet? Or are they just talking about it and they're not going to do nothing until they get money? You would always give money to your child who comes to you and say, Dad, give me money for my car. I've saved 50% of it, versus the kid who said, Dad, pay for the whole car. So I teach businesses, there's a way to really do collaboration where it's successful with not a lot of investment. And that's the other part. A lot of people spend money trying to find money, getting loans to start businesses, and you don't need it when you work your assets the right way. So that's the heart of what we do there.
This is fantastic. The youth bill, for example, that's an ideal way of getting youth, and they working as interns, really another word for it, interns, on-the-job training.
Yes.
The actually nuts and bolts of doing the work in building homes.
And the coolest part about it, I love the federal government can do some things. They can give them skills, but they can't do the part I can do. So I do the life skill. They do life skills, but I get to deal with the value system. So I have ethical businessmen that they get to work beside. I've got a lot of my contractors are faith-believing men who now teach them the work ethic on site. So it's not just about the skill. So the federal government will give them a skill, but I give them the heart. I help them activate that purpose of why they were created. And so that's why we partner. Primarily we partner with Youth Conservation Corps, Waukegan, but we have definitely awareness of we've done some work, service days with Youthville, Lake County. So we're trying to get all of them to work together more. We have a lot more resources to give, and I know a lot of people want to hire the kids. And so that's the value of partnering with us, because I'm working with a network of businesses that can send me a good kid. And that's why our culinary program is going to be one of our signature programs, because it's ex-offender friendly. And so I've been partnering with restaurants who says, I'll take a kid who can cook. I don't care what his background is. And so that's part of the programs that we're going to be partnering to grow. So stay tuned in 2018 where we're going to be building our culinary training school.
All things are possible. if you let God use you.
If you let God use you,
'Cause
absolutely.
everyone is here for a purpose.
Absolutely.
You weren't here by an accident.
Not at all.
You know, I know I talked with one of the pastors in his area. He said his mother left him on a doorstep in Chicago again. That was in Chicago, left him on a doorstep. And he now in this area, he was the, what we call the president of the Ministers Alliance. You know, came from a doorstep to Ministers Alliance. But that's God using him, you know.
Absolutely.
And God is using you, and I'm sure there's many things, because you have a deeper vision than now, right?
Yeah, I'll put it this way.
You hardly think so. You've done it.
I'm just activating it. His vision is huge, and you know
Okay.
it's his vision when you don't have the capacity to pull it off. For me to talk about bringing all races together, all religions together,
yeah.
that's a God vision. There's nothing that I could have done, but through him, it's possible, and it's happening, and we have evidence of it already. As we have an ecumenical network of 30 churches coming together, that's God.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Yeah. I'm so happy that we met and having this program, because I had a racism forum here a couple weeks ago here in this area, trying to decide on how to cure racism. And the way we were going at it is we didn't have near the vision that you have. I like your vision, your goal, and it's not costing any money there.
It's really simple.
It's using your God-given gift.
Love God, love his people. That's the
Okay.
simple description. That's what we're all supposed to do. That's how you kill racism. Love God, because he's your value system, and love his people. That means if you're loving your neighbor, you're not hanging them by a cross or burning a cross or, arresting them unfairly or abusing them.
Okay.
If you love your neighbors, it's a really simple command, but it changes all that. It gets rid of war. It gets rid of the divisions. If we love our neighbors, I'm trying to teach people how to love their neighbors in tangible ways. And if we do that, it'll work out.
Well, you speak about loving your neighbors. Why do your neighbor feel that he's better than you? Is that they're not born with that, because actually we're from the same dust, right? Same dust.
God didn't come to save skin, he came to save souls.
Okay.
Which had nothing to do. So in other words, our job as believers is to simply go get our brothers and sisters, so when God comes back here, they'll be a part of the family.
Okay.
That's our simple job description. Love his people, go get your brothers and sisters and bring them back home. And we got to do that. We got to be likable, that they might want to come home with us. So
Okay.
my job is not to judge their lifestyle, just to love them so much that they want to be like me. That's turning on their light so they can turn on their own light. That's all we got. That's what we want to be able to teach the kids how to do. If you are a good person and you love somebody else, and if they don't even love you back, still love them anyway. And then God will deal with their heart.
And now, I was in the military for 2 years and 16 months in Korea, but that wasn't my
life call.
right calling, yeah, right. And I noticed that you mentioned about
So I did 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
But I had brothers who were on the front line in the war. And so the Gulf War, I have a brother. I have another brother who was Air Force. He died. He worked at the Pentagon. And
Okay.
so I have a military friend, my uncles who were in Vietnam. And so I have a heart for veterans because I see them so lost. And so part of the work is to be able to help them find their way. Because these are great men and women. But because of what happened to them, and as I go to the VA and the drugs, now they're getting drug problems because you come on with bags of drugs, people are getting caught up on the drugs.
Okay.
I'm trying to find their purpose, so you push those drugs away. Type 2 diabetic, had a stroke some years ago. I've lost about 40 pounds since I started doing this fresh food. So part of our cooking program is to teach how to eat healthier and to get off those drugs. Because what's coming, and you already see it in the healthcare, some people are not going to be able to afford them. So I'm trying to find healing through food. And so I'm partnering with some people who are doing plant-based food diets to help you heal yourself with food. And so that's another part of what we want to be able to do, is to educate people how to live better so they can live longer. And that's kind of the journey I'm on right now personally of why I'm doing this.
Yes, in addition to drugs, you heard the PTSD program.
PTSD, yes.
Post-traumatic
stress disorder.
disorder.
But the reality is, Dr. Brooks, the guy who saw somebody shot, the guy who's been the young girl's been sexually abused, PTSD is in every facet of life. It's not just with veterans. So
right,
yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, I really appreciate this. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we're very happy that you've taken time from your busy schedule to listen to Yvette Ewing. As I mentioned, that she is a person that you should know. And now that you can see why we need a part 2 for her to continue talking about her field. And we didn't touch on all the things that God has given her to do. I mentioned that she's executive director of Fuller Center for Housing Hero, Project Lake County. But Yvette, I didn't mention, how can people get in touch with you?
So yeah, so so absolutely. 312-450-7680 is our office number.
Okay.
Our office is right downtown Waukegan, 141 South Genesee, right next door to the Waukegan Township.
Okay.
We have office hours from 9 to 4 every day, and definitely come visit our thrift store, and then also follow us on Facebook. And so we have the Fuller Center, Lake County. You can go on Facebook and see our pictures of our gardens and the work we've been doing in the community. So yes, and we love some volunteers. We love financial support. If your company gives financial help, we are a great project because we're bringing a whole community. We are unique in what we're doing, and we definitely need financial support. It's one of our biggest needs, so we're a great cause, and we're 501c3, so you get a write-off for that.
And another thing, she's the CEO of All Things Possible Enterprise. And if you love God and do His work, do His will, all things are possible.
Absolutely.
To those that, in the Philippians, for those that love Christ. And you're available for consulting, you're a grant writer and trainer and a family person, and the list goes on and on. So we're going to let you contact her at her facility there to get more detail about what she's been doing. This has been Community Forum. My name is Dr. Waddell Brooks Sr., your host.